I don't see it.
You see it?
Yeah, a green light's at the bottom means go, right? What's index mean?
I think it means it just started.
There's a light bulb, means there isn't enough light.
Let me go to the bathroom. Don't record that. Yeah.
Okay, it's a green light's go.
Okay.
Right, Teresa? Green light?
Yes, dear.
Okay, Mom, the questions I have to ask you, what's today? What is today?
Today is Tuesday,
September 3rd.
September the 3rd, 1991.
Okay. What I want to do, Mom, is start getting you on tapes
I
before
was
you go
born
to the...
1919.
Before I want to start getting you on tapes, I want to ask you a bunch of questions.
Okay, ask me some questions.
Okay. For example, this dining room table here we have. Where'd this come from?
Brugger's. And it's a Duncan 5. Drop big table.
What? Okay, that piece.
And this is what your father got out of the barn. And he refinished it. I refinished the other one that's in the family room, the 3-drawer one. They were a set for a bedroom set. And the table that matches them is in Alice's house.
Okay. How old is that?
Oh, this didn't belong to the DeRosa family. All these belong to the Conley family.
So how old is that?
And it was the Conley Ranch where we lived.
How many acres did Grandpa have?
It was 15 acres.
15
He
acres?
inherited half of it, and he bought the other half from the Conley's niece.
What year did he subdivide all that acreage? William, can you step back?
In 1950, he subdivided 1957. Mary Beth was 2 years old when we moved into that house.
What about in our? What about the Victrola?
Oh, the Victrola was one. There was just 4 in Sacramento, and my Uncle Fred was one person, Mr. Bruner's, and they came from Bruner's, and 2 other families.
It's like those Steins down on I.
And those Steins, Bruner's brought those back from Germany.
Which Bruner?
The original Bruner that started Bruner's store. He brought those back from Germany to my Uncle Fred.
Uncle Fred.
Uncle Fred was in saloon business at 225 K Street, called the Palm.
Who was he in business with?
He was in business with Burns.
What was his?
It was Burns and Walker.
What was Burns' first name?
I can't remember his first name. And I worked at the Board of Equalization with one of his nieces. He never had any children, but he had 2 nieces, and I can't even remember those girls' names. Well, one of them worked at the board.
Excuse me.
When I was there, those girls were more around Gladys.
It's still running, Willie. Move over the place.
Isabel and Kruzberger. I think her name was Kruzberger. That was his niece.
Do not shut enough and bring you to some people.
Please get over on this side, Willie.
They can't sit right here. They sit right here.
Okay, come here. Let me hold it. Stay right there. I want to ask Grandma a bunch more questions, okay? What we're doing, William, is we're going to record Grandma and ask her a bunch of questions, okay?
Are you looking there?
You can see from here. See from here? See
Can
through?
you see me?
Can you see Grandma through that? Okay, that's good enough. The next, I want to ask Mom, what I want to do this every week. We'll have you over. I want to start going through the history of the family on tape. Okay.
Okay.
Since you're talking about furniture, what about those 2 little old chairs?
Oh, those 2 little chairs was my father's aunt's chairs. Those 2 little chairs.
Okay. And what about this?
I bought those, and Eleanor bought 2. And we bought them out of the estate in Hayward.
William.
My father's half-sister, Louisa Coelho. She was Louisa Peters.
What about the china closet?
Well, the china closet is my was my grandmother's Walker Shiner Closet. And that is to be saved for Stephanie. But when I die, the dishes that was my grandmother's in there are to be divided 3 ways between you, Donald, and Mary Beth.
I'm not worried, Stroge. I'm not worried, Stroge. You're not going to die for a long time.
I'm just telling you because I'm going to add that onto my will.
Then why push this?
Don't push that. That's a battery pack, boy.
No, I can't.
Be nice, boy. You're being videoed.
No, not be video.
How do you know you're not being videoed?
Then why push this button?
William, we're not going to push that button. Ma?
Well, my father went in the fire department. I came across
William.
1902. And he was married in 1904.
Here.
My father.
What can make?
Leave Daddy alone.
Okay, Mom, what I want to do, sure, is let's break this down. What about that wood table in that family room?
Oh,
that Mark
that
redid,
table
that was
there,
Aunt Gladys's. Yeah.
That table was my grandmother's table. That came from the house on N Street.
What house on M?
Yeah, where I was born, 727N. It's not even there
Kitty
now.
corner
State
from the
Bill.
Stanford home.
Uh-huh. But everybody was born around on 8th Street. But I was born on N Street. Mm-hmm. We were all born at home. But we were delivered by a doctor. I think it was Dr. Cox. There wasn't very many doctors in Sacramento.
Mom, let's talk. Well, let's go back some years now.
All right, we'll go back to where?
Let's go back. Let's break down your grandparents and beyond. Not your mother and father, but their parents. Now, what about your mother's mother and father?
My grandparents on my mother's side came from Polton, Maine. My grandparents on my father's side came from the Azores. My grandmother came from the island of Fayal, and my grandfather came from St. George.
But
Those are my grandparents. Now,
that's your father. Now, which one's from the Holton, Maine? That's your mother's.
that's on my mother's side. My grandparents both came from Polton, Maine.
What was her name?
Her name was Susan Rice, and she married J.A.Y. Nelson Walker. And they're both buried up at Oddfellow Cemetery. He belonged to a Blue Lodge back in Maine.
What's a Blue Lodge, Rose?
It's a Masonic order.
There's 2 frosting on it. Go look. Did you see the frosting?
But my mother had become a Catholic because she went to St. Joseph Academy
Yeah.
Here in Sacramento?
here in Sacramento.
High school, grammar school?
Grammar school, and my father went to Christian Brothers, and Christian Brothers at that time was at 12th and
It's
K,
from, yeah.
a long time ago.
Now, what year? Okay, now that we've covered your mother's mother and father.
I don't know.
Okay, and your mom's first name and middle name.
My
Hey, you don't
mother
want the cake anymore?
was Elizabeth Mary Walker Peters.
Okay.
Her mother was Susan Rice
Hey, have another
Walker.
And okay. What was your?
My father was William Augustine Peters. And his father was Joseph Peters. And his mother was Mary Peters. She was Mary DeCosta. Her maiden name was DeCosta, and her first marriage was to a DeCosta. And she had 4 sons. Arthur, Frank, Joseph, and Manuel. Manuel was quite a baseball player, and he died when he was about 24 years old. Well, her husband died, and she was left a widow with 4. And she married my grandfather. He was a widower that had 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. Well, he only raised the oldest girl, Mary. And his brothers and sisters raised the other children.
Mom, I'm gonna take a quick break here for a second.
Okay, shush.
I think she's dying tomorrow.
Just in case she dies, I get something on tape.
Wait,
What's index mean?
You had
I don't know. I
that.
did that last time. I don't know what it means.
You had that on top of the tape about my china closet.
Yeah, Mom, I don't care. What I want to do now.
I want a circle.
Calm down. That's not what
I want a circle.
Go finish it. It's on the table. You have a second on the table. Go get
No, I want red.
it. No, I'm not getting anywhere. You have one there. Eat that or don't eat
I'm
anything else.
recording. I don't care. Rose,
Yes.
Did you push the red button?
what right
I don't see a light on.
Yeah, no, it says was on.
And the gas comes up.
Okay, Mom. All I want.
Honey, make it seem like fun, not a chore. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Nothing's a chore when you have a schedule of things to do.
Oh, shut up.
What do you got to do?
Go visit with Mommy. Yes. Mom, why don't you just tell me what's your grandparents? Your father's mother and father. Tell me stories about them. Who are they? What's your name? Tell me stories how they even came about. Where they came from.
Well, my grandmother came from,
William, let's let that alone.
she came from the island of Fayal in the Azores.
What was her name?
Her name was Mary DeCosta. And she married.
What year did she come over?
I don't know what year she came over here. But
Honey, can you help me?
when she came, come on, sit on my lap.
I'll give you cash, Teresa, if you just keep them occupied.
You'll give me cash.
Yeah. I mean, I'm tired of that.
You're tired, we'll
Just
do
hold
this
him
some
while
other
you
time.
do it.
You
No, because he doesn't stand still.
Want to go sit with your grandma in the rocking chair? Go sit on grandma's lap and daddy take a movie of you on grandma's lap.
Come on,
Go sit on
there
grandma's lap,
will
daddy's
be
take
movies.
a movie.
Come on up
And
on
then we
my
can watch it
lap.
on TV
Oh,
afterwards.
you're such a...
I want a circle.
Okay, get your sucker, then go sit with grandma then.
Okay, Ma. It's Rose. It's
And
still.
my grandfather Peters came from the island of St. George. But they were married here because she was a widow with 4, and he was a widower with 4 children.
Where did they have their 4 kids? All in the United States or over there in the Azores?
No, well my grandmother's first son was born over there.
You're not taking a movie.
But the other 3 were born here. And they were born down in the pocket. She lived in the pocket area. And then now I don't know too much about him, but he was left a widower with 4. And he only raised the oldest girl.
What was his name?
That's okay.
Her name was Mary Peters. And the other 3, the grandmother to the baby, he was under a year old when the mother died.
Come on, okay, Rose, let's get this. You're confusing me.
Oh, it is confusing. It really
No,
is.
Rose, Ma. Your father's father. What? Let's just deal with your father's mother. Your father's mother. What was her name?
Mary DeCosta. And she married a DeCosta in her first marriage.
Marriage?
And then she
That was
married
over
here.
there in the Azores.
She married here.
Okay, she married here. But was she born here or where
No,
was she born?
she was born over in the Azores on the island of Fayal.
Okay. Then they came over here. She came over here.
Came over here.
She married. Her name was DeCosta. She married DeCosta. What happened to that guy?
He died.
Okay.
He's buried in the cemetery over on 21st Street, Old Catholic Cemetery. Both of her husbands are buried in the plot, and I have 2 little sisters that's buried in that plot.
What's E minus F stand for, honey?
The battery's almost dead, but
Okay, Mom, let's recap. We're back online, okay, babe?
Okay, ask me.
Okay, we got Mary DeCosta. Was born in Fayette. Came over here from the old country. She married another DeCosta. What was his name?
I don't know what her first husband's first
But
name
he's buried over there
Yeah, he's buried in the Peters and DeCosta plot in the
on 21st Street.
On 21st Street, St. Joseph Cemetery.
Okay. So you had DeCosta and DeCosta. Okay. He passed away. What did he die of?
I don't know.
They just died. What year did he die?
I don't know. I'll have to look on the tombstone.
Okay, so we know he did. He's dead.
I think my grandfather died in 1917, which he died before I was born.
Now, but you see, now that's okay. That's not him though.
No, that's
your
Peters.
okay.
Joseph
So
Peters.
okay, he died. He left her with 4 children.
The DeCosta, yeah, she was
Okay.
a widow with 4 boys.
Okay. What were the 4 boys' names? Do you know?
Yeah, Arthur, Frank, Joseph, and Manuel.
Okay. Any of them have any children?
Arthur had 2 daughters, Gladys and Thelma. Uncle Frank had no children. And he was the one that's married to Teresa Batera DeCosta.
Okay.
And Uncle Joe had 1 daughter, Lucille. Manuel was only about 24 years old when he died. He wasn't married.
Okay.
And he was quite a baseball player here. Now his picture, it's in the El Chico, in the old timers baseball team. His picture's in there.
Thank you.
So then the 4 children of my grandfather's first wife.
Okay. Now he passed away. She ended up marrying a man named Peters.
Joseph Peters.
Peters. Now Joseph Peters had 4 children from his first marriage.
2 girls and 2 boys.
What was their names?
Their names was Mary and Louisa and Joseph and Manuel.
Okay. Whatever happened to those 4?
Those 4, he only raised the oldest girl, Mary.
Okay.
And Louisa was raised by an uncle, and Joseph was raised by an uncle, and Manuel was raised by his mother's parents.
Okay.
They weren't raised together. Then my grandfather and my grandmother had 3 more children.
Okay, so in other words, Joseph Peters married him. He was a widow with 4 kids.
And
Widower. And he had the widow with 4. They got together. Then they had 3 more kids. What were those 3? That was your father.
My father and my Aunt Carrie and another one that died.
Okay, what was the one that died? What was his name?
I think he was about 8 months old.
Okay.
He's buried in the cemetery there too.
All in the big plot.
All in the plots.
Okay. So your brother your dad, your father, only had 1 full sister.
1 full sister, that's all.
Okay.
And so I only had 1 full first cousin.
And
That was Munna.
that is Mona. She's still here.
That's all. Now, all my other cousins were really half cousins.
Okay.
My uncles and my aunts were half aunts.
Okay. Okay. When you're now back to your grandmother's
DeCosta.
DeCosta.
Grandma Peters.
and those half brothers and sisters, you said one had Thelma. What were their last names?
Gladys DeCosta Thomas. Thelma DeCosta Arnold.
Okay.
Now, and then Lucille DeCosta Butler.
Okay.
And let's see, that was all of
Okay.
those first.
Now what about on your grandfather's side? Those four, did they have any children? Those
half brothers. Joseph had a daughter. I don't know if she's alive. She's living in Martinez. I haven't seen her for about 10 years. And her name was Lenora. She was around my sister Eleanor's age.
Okay.
And Louisa had no children.
You know, for being Catholics, they didn't reproduce much, did
No, Mary, the daughter, Mary, she married Barella. She had children, She moved up in Ogden, Utah. She was up there.
Never heard of her again.
My father and mother used to always get it from Joe Barella. Joe Barella was her, well, I gotta find out who Joe Barella was. We used to always get a Christmas card from Joe Barella. It was some relative to my father.
Okay, so your father had, so the 4 and 4, the first child was only raised by
my
grandparents.
That was Mary.
Now how did she make her living, that grandmother, until she met the other Peters?
Well, she had to do housework.
What did the Joseph Peters do? Your father's father do for
Well, what did he do for a living? And he was one of the last founders of the river lines here in Sacramento. He was a captain on the San Joaquin River lines. And he was one of the last partners in with Dwyer. Monsignor Dwyer's grandfather. And my grandfather was one of the last partners.
Okay. Did they make any money?
I don't think my grandfather, no, because my poor grandmother, even after she had children, she always took in walking. She always had boarders. She worked all the time.
So he didn't, even though in business he didn't.
No. She had it. My grandmother had it hard.
Okay. So when did those?
Her boys, her older boys.
So, huh?
I'll
Her
show
older
you
boys were
the
good to her.
bathroom.
Okay. Did they,
I'll show you.
your father, how long did your grandparents, they passed away before you were born?
Oh no, my grandfather died before I was born. Died in 1917. I was born in 1919. But my grandmother died a year after my father died. She died in 1938. My grandmother.
Oh, so you remember her quite well.
Yeah, I remember her.
Who did she live with?
Aunt Carrie and Mun and Aunt Carrie's husband all lived with her. It was her house on Espy.
Okay. Okay. Where was your father? Was your father born in that house?
No, my father was born down on 4th Street. My grandmother didn't move in that house until Muna was a baby. And let's see, he was dead. Yes, he was dead. 1917. Muna was born. Muna was a few months old. She was born after he died.
So
Or she was just a few months, because she's born in 1917 in May.
So Muna's only a couple years older than you.
She's only 2 years older than I am.
Okay, Mom. The next question I have for you now.
Come on out.
We,
Did you want some of your toys in your closet to play with?
that takes care of your father's grandparents and grandmother. Okay.
Come here.
Now, Joseph Peters, where did he come? Was he born in the United States?
Yeah, no, he was born in the Azores. He came from the island of, in the Azores, St. George.
St. George. Okay. What was it, Peters, though?
Oh, he translated the Portuguese into English, and it comes Peters in English.
So what's it in Portuguese?
In Portuguese, it's Pires, P-I-R-E-S.
P-I-R-E-S.
E-S is in Portuguese.
Ah.
And he translated when he first came over.
He didn't like to be known to be Portuguese, is that it? He went,
No, he translated.
I was just curious.
Translated his
Okay.
thing.
Now we get into now we're gonna get into, you know, like you know, what's the lady that passed away just not too long?
Oh, my cousin Ruth Lenny.
Yeah.
Her grandmother and my grandmother and Delphine Van Dyke's
leave it alone?
grandmother.
I can have it.
They were all sisters. There were 3 DaCosta sisters.
Now they're all sisters.
They were 3 sisters. Our grandmothers were all sisters. Delphine Van Dyke is dead. She and her
Wait a minute. Your grandmother
had 2 sisters.
DaCosta.
She had 2 sisters, Mrs. King and Mrs. Farley.
Okay.
And I believe she had 2 brothers.
I want to see it.
Okay. Don't touch. Just look. You see through?
And I believe she was the oldest of the girls.
Your mother, your
My
grandma.
grandmother.
Okay.
Now her mother is buried in East Lawn Cemetery.
Which mother?
My grandmother's mother.
Oh, your grandmother's mother.
Mother is buried over in East Lawn here. Her name was.
Did she come over from the Azores over here?
Yes, and
And they buried her here.
Well, she lived over here. She lived with her youngest daughter, Lena. Mrs.
She did this.
She lived in the Farley's house, and the Farleys had 3 girls and a boy. They had Everett Farley, Edna Farley. Edna Farley married George Poper, and Delphine Farley, she died when she was about 18. And Irma Farley Van Dyke was her other daughter. Now Irma had a daughter and her son, Delphine and William. And then Edna had one son, Buddy. And then Mrs. King had Mamie and Lena and Polly. I believe she had a son too, Mrs. King. Ruth Lady was the only granddaughter.
Yeah, he cuts.
Oh. All these relatives on my father's side, they're all so complicated.
The only one left alive today?
But then when you come down to my father, we were the largest family of any of them.
Okay. How about that? How about Uncle Frank is the one who walked you down the altar. That was your
Uncle
father's
Frank.
brother, half brother.
Half brother, Frank, my
Okay.
Uncle Frank.
He was the one who was married to Teresa Patera.
Teresa Patera. Yeah, and she was an aunt to Frank Patera, the attorney.
Oh, okay. Right.
We had the same aunt and uncle, only on the opposite side. His aunt was married to my uncle.
Now, how did your father meet your mother?
Oh, how did they meet?
Because your father's Portuguese and your mother's Irish Scotch. Now, your mother's mother and father, who we talked about earlier in the tape, came from Holton, Maine, came out here. That's when was your mother born here?
My mother's born here.
And so was your mom's brother, Fred Walker, too.
Those two were born here.
Now,
I believe my mother said she was born on J Street. Way down on J.
Please.
Turn it off, I got something funny to tell you.
okay, you want to tell me something juicy?
I don't want to put on the thing.
Okay, just a moment. Mom, let's go on to, so your mom and dad, you don't know how they met then?
I don't know, but see, they were friendly with Kate. My mother was friendly with Katie Wall, which is Bill Lineberger's great aunt. Kitty Lineberger's aunt. My mother was acquainted with Kitty's mother, the Walls, and Kitty's mother.
Does Ronald know much about this, his family?
I
addressed
have a picture of Kate and Kitty, which I'm going to give to them. In my mother's little book, her little album I have there. There's their pictures, Katie and Kitty. And they're getting old, they're beginning to kind of fade, you know. But they were all friends.
Okay, so your mom and dad...
My mother worked at a soap factory where Katie worked.
You were or they were?
Then how did your mom and dad meet? You don't know?
I don't know how they met, but they met.
And then they got
went
married.
together about 3 or 4 years before they
How
got
many,
married.
what year were they married in?
They were married 1904.
Okay.
And I have a copy of they were married at the cathedral.
And not in 19...
I have a copy of
Who
their
stood up
marriage.
for them?
What? My Uncle Fred Walker stood up for him, and Hulda Nielsen. She was a friend of my mother's. The Nielsens.
Okay.
And when I showed the wedding picture to Leota, she says, "That's Hulda Nielsen." I says, "Yes, my mother was friendly with Hulda, and she stood up for my mother."
I remember Leota.
You remember Leota? She was sure a nice little lady. And, I did get a sympathy card from her daughter down south, Katie. Somebody wrote and told her Susan had died. And she sent me a little card and a note.
You got
Okay, William.
Are you trying to pretend, are you a lion or a tiger?
Dad, please give me a tiger costume someday.
You want a tiger costume someday?
I thought you wanted to be a clown for Halloween.
I want to be.
What do you want to be?
Huh? I want to be a clown with funny makeup on.
Okay.
Oh, and a funny nose.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a clown?
Yeah. There's a clown right there on picture. There's a clown. There's 2 clowns.
There is, okay. Yeah, I see them.
His hair is so pretty, isn't it? It kind of waves. You have pretty hair. No? Oh.
William, how old are you?
I'm 2.5.
How old will you be next year?
3.
Yeah, that's right. Take a look at him. Ride your bike and I'll film you riding your bike right now.
They got good use out of those things, didn't they?
Oh, they're real happy, Ma. There goes Willie. What?
There you go.
Did you see it?
Yeah, come over here. Come right through. Now, listen, your mom and dad. Okay, your mom and dad got married in 1904. Where were all your brothers and sisters born?
Oh, on 8th Street between M and N. Everybody was born in that house except me. I was born at 727N around the corner.
Is that kitty corner from the Stanford home?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay. You were there. Then what grammar school did you go to there? Because you were there till you were in that house until you were what?
Kindergarten at Hartness on 10th and P. And then I went to William Land to the low through the low 4th. And then we moved out to U Street.
When you were how old?
And I was 9 years old.
Okay, 2505 U
You.
Street.
And then I went to Newton Booth in the 8th grade.
William, please. We're trying to...
Oh, no. Oh, don't do that. That's
William.
for the floor.
William, what did I
You'll
say?
break it.
I'll take that away.
Not mine.
Well,
You do that one more time, I'll take it away.
You don't want to break it, then you wouldn't have anything nice to ride.
No. Emma broke my racquetball. She broke it.
Who broke your racquetball?
Emma did.
Emma?
Yeah.
She chews it and breaks it. And then she eats them and then they come
And
out.
what did you break? Your racquetball?
Yeah, she breaks my racket.
Emma.
I want it. She chewed
Well,
it.
you all have to get your new racquetball. Grandma, get your new racquetball.
You know, I think we'll do is we'll end the tape there tonight, Mom. I
What?
got 30 minutes you on tape.
Did you turn it off?
I will now. How's that?
Turn it
Signing off. It's Sunday, September the what?
Good woman.
Ow! Don't! You hit me.
22nd.
There, you got hit in the head by accident. You just.
No.
Yeah, 22nd.
What day is this?
Today is the October the 8th.
October the 8th,
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. I want you to. Do you know any? What we want to do is continue on the theme about family history today. Okay, again.
All right.
It's 1991, October the 8th. Do you know any stories about your grandparents? Because we already went through where they from, where they came from, so forth. Any stories that you know about your grandparents on your mother's side?
Well, let's see. My grandmother on my mother's side died in 1922. I was 3 years old. And my grandmother on my father's side died in 1938, a year after my father died.
Now let me get that again.
My grandmother on my grandmother on my father's side
Yeah.
died a year after
Hi,
my
Emma.
father. My father died in 1937 and she died in 1938.
Okay.
But
So
my
you remember her quite-
grandfather's- Oh, I remember her well because I was over 18 years old when she died.
Any
But I
good
was
stories
only 3
about her?
years
Was she a
old.
nice woman? Or was she a pain? By the look in your face, she wasn't exactly the... William, please leave it
I
alone.
wasn't around her
No,
a
I'm
lot.
deaf.
You know.
Why weren't you around them a lot?
Well, let's see.
Do you know why? Just out of curiosity, you killed the cat?
Well, we did. When I was 7
Done,
years old, we
baby.
never had any more Christmases with all the relatives. We had our Christmas ourselves, just our family.
Teresa, can you call Master William?
Our immediate family.
No.
Your immediate family, after
No,
you're 7.
not Master.
Where did you have your Christmas before? Oh, at 7th and N?
Seventh, and they used to all come to our house.
Yeah, okay.
I don't see it.
And then when I was 7, I had the measles that Christmas time.
And then when you were 9, you moved over to what?
When I was 9 years old, we moved over on U Street.
2505 U Street.
Uh-huh.
What was your address on 7th and N?
727 N I was born.
Kitty corner from the Stanford home?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, how about any other stories about your grandmother you want to say? What was her name?
Well, my mother's name was Susan.
No. Your grandmother on your...
Mary.
Okay, Mary DaCosta, right?
Her maiden name was DaCosta, and her first marriage was to a DaCosta that wasn't related.
Okay.
And her second marriage was to...
Now, do you have any stories about the grandfather?
No,
your
'cause
father's-
He died before I was born.
Okay. Now, what about on your mother's side, your mother and father?
He died before I was born, too.
Okay, now what about her?
Oh, I was 3 years old when my grandmother Walker died.
Okay, and you remember being lifted up from the...
I remember being lifted up to her casket.
I remember that. The
When I
months you
was a
lived here,
girl.
we used to talk a lot. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we took care of your grandparents. Any interesting thing? Now your grandmother had... your
I
mother...
was about 13 years old when my Uncle Fred Walker died.
That was your mother's brother.
Brother.
What about Uncle Fred? What about his stories? How did he make his money?
He made it in his saloon business. And then he bootlegged. And everything went.
When they had Prohibition. He made a lot of money in the saloon business?
Yes.
What's that story about? Remember how much money your dad came home?
Oh, he said he was worth at that time over $90,000.
And Fred Walker had a yacht on
He
the...
had a yacht, He had a home over there on Q Street, 24th and Q. I have a picture of him. My grandmother sitting in front of him.
He had no children, right?
He had 2 marriages.
What happened to the first marriage?
They divorced.
Do you remember her name?
Yeah, Pearl. Pearl was her name. She's very pretty. Then he married this one years younger. And you know who her aunt was? I mean, her sisters were. Remember those McQuillan girls?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My class.
Well, their grandmother and my aunt were sisters.
Okay, but that first one,
First one, Pearl, they had no children. Both marriages, he had no children.
what happened to the first marriage?
She didn't want to stay married any longer.
Why? You could say it. Don't worry, Mom. They're all dead. I know what you're going to
They're
say.
all dead. She went back into a prostitution house.
Okay.
She was a madam. But in later years, she stopped all that, and I did remember her with Gladys. We were shopping at Farmer's Market on S Street. But Gladys had bumped into her different times. She had remarried in later years and led a quieter life.
She must have made some good money.
Oh, yes. She says, yes. And she just did, when she left, she didn't want any of the things. She only took, I think, one thing with her, and that's all.
What was that famous line she said that she could make?
She could make more money than all Burns and Walkers together.
That was the saloon that your uncle was in.
It was Burns and Walkers. It was called the Palm.
The Palm. Now what
That
about...
was at 225K.
Yeah.
I have a picture of it.
Now what about the... you were talking one time that your Uncle Fred put a sign up in front of it.
My Uncle Frank, my father's
Brother.
Albert Elkis had a sign that says, every man is odd, but we can fit him.
Yeah.
And that was the time when they had the prostitution houses, and they had fences around the houses. And one Halloween night, my uncle with somebody else took the sign and put it in front of Fanny Brown's house. Prostitution house. We always laughed about it.
How old were you then?
I just remember them telling me the story, my mother, and my sisters and my mother.
Yeah. What about... now Pearl, you remember meeting Pearl?
I can't think of Pearl's maiden name.
Yeah.
I have pictures of her. She's very pretty.
Yeah. And then after that divorced, and they
divorced, and then he didn't get married for quite a while, and then Carrie, her name was Carrie. She was Carrie Anya.
Okay.
She was crazy about my uncle. He married her, but she was years younger. And then she ends up, when he was so sick, she died 3 weeks before he did, in her sleep. She said she just couldn't go on without him.
Yet they were divorced?
No, the second wife died 3 weeks before he died.
Oh, they were married. I thought he had... he wasn't...
Married.
He remarried the second one, but it lasted his whole life, rest of his life. What did Uncle Fred die of?
Oh, it died cancer.
Was it cancer?
Yeah.
How old was he, Mom?
Well, he was only in his 50s.
You're kidding. I was young.
And she was only in her early 30s when she died.
What'd she end up dying of?
Well, she drank so much that it just happened. She drank too much and died in her sleep. He was sick in the hospital.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
She wasn't taking care of herself.
Close your mouth when you cough, okay? William, put your hand over your mouth, okay? Hey, Ma. Now, can you and do you know any other funny stories about Fred?
Uncle Fred? Oh, he was very fond of Ruthie. And he'd give her money to go to the show, and she'd sit through 2 pictures. She was funny.
Aunt Ruth, yeah. What about... That was your mom's brother. Do you have any... Do you want to tell stories about your mom and dad growing up? How'd they get along?
In their married life?
Yeah.
Oh, our house was fine.
You had a real...
My mother and father got along real good. There was no bickering or fighting.
That's why you never fought with us kids,
Yeah.
huh? Okay.
We all learned to dance at home.
On that
On the phonograph.
Victrola.
We dance around. He used to play put the Sousa's marches on, marching records, and we'd march around. But then we all
Dad,
dance.
Dad, push the red button, see if it works.
It is. It's working right now, William. Trust me.
No, maybe that losing will work.
Well, no, because that's pointing at Grandma right now.
Oh.
You're a good boy, Will.
Who got this camera for you?
Mommy and Daddy bought this so we could film you and your wonderful activities. Do you have a dirty diaper? Do you have a dirty diaper?
No, I don't.
You don't have a dirty diaper.
Yeah.
Oh, you do have a dirty diaper.
Uh,
Oh, you do not have a dirty diaper.
yeah.
We got that perfectly clear now, okay? He's funny, isn't he?
He's so cute.
Dad, we'll take one more. We'll take one more. I watch your famous dive.
Yep, you're right. When I swim, I do one dive all the time, Mom. I call it my famous dive.
I'm sure my dad. I'm sure my dad dives like this.
Oh yes, your dad's quite a swimmer.
The other now we want to go on, Mom. So they got along real good. And how was the Depression? Do you remember the Depression?
Well, I was born 1919. Yeah, I remember the Depression.
But it really wasn't.
Well, it really didn't. My father had steady work in the fire department, and so we really
Didn't see anything.
we didn't feel anything. And that's when they built the home, was during the Depression times.
Yeah.
They built the home.
They paid cash for that home, or
1928. No.
they took a loan out to build
Uh-huh.
it. William, could you just move over just?
But they owned the lot for 22 years before they built on it.
Huh? Could you So your mom and dad got real. Did your dad play any sports, Mom?
When he was younger, he used to play baseball.
Did he?
He liked baseball.
Did he go to Christian Brothers
He
School?
went to Christian Brothers. It was at 12th and K then.
Now, what about your mom? What grammar school and high school did she go to?
She went to St. Joseph.
But did she go to high school too?
No.
Your dad
Neither
did he?
one of
Neither, but he went to Christian Brothers Grammar
Mhm.
School.
And she went to St. Joseph's School.
You know, and how tall was your father? Taller than Uncle Dodo? Taller than 5'8"?
No, just about the same tall as Uncle Dodo.
About as tall as I am, 5'8".
Yeah, about as tall, yeah, same height as you are.
He had a good disposition, huh?
Real good. You're a lot like him.
Real mellow.
Mm-hmm. Real
Doesn't get
understanding man.
Doesn't get too excited about things.
No.
Except how was his eating habits?
Very easy to please.
Did he like to drink? Socially, he did, though.
Yeah, socially, but not long.
What about the stories about having Willie come down to the basement and have a drink?
Oh, that's when the Bateras had the liquor in the basement. That's how they started out.
Is that Frank lawyer's?
That's the lawyer's grandparents started that.
How'd they make their money?
That's how they started with the liquor. That's how they made their money.
During bootlegging time.
And then they had that property off the
Mom,
tavern.
please read this
Captain.
book to me. Please read this book to me.
And when they see my brother, they say, "Oh, here comes Willie. Let's get a drink. Come on in here, Willie. Have a drink." That was Julia, Frank's aunt. Yeah, she was funny, Julia. She did the driving. My Aunt Teresa didn't drive. And they'd go every week to the cemetery and fix up all the crypts. Now they're all bare. The next generation doesn't go out there.
Have you been out there lately?
No, but I have to go. And Uncle Frank and Aunt Teresa is close to where Susan and your father. I'll put some flowers in there. I have to go out and put a new artificial flowers in the outdoor niche.
Yeah. You don't mind doing this, Mom? Me filming you?
No.
I might as well get it on tape because there's so many stories. Now I want to. Any other stories about your dad, sports-wise? Did he then?
Oh, we used to go to the parades. They used to march in all the parades. If they were off, if they weren't on duty, they had march in the parade. All the firemen and all the policemen. And we'd go downtown to the parade to see our father march in the parade. Real exciting. And then we always, if he wasn't working, we went to the fireman's ball. It was once a year in the auditorium.
And your mom, she did all his uniforms, or how did?
Oh yeah, she could clean his uniforms, just like came from the cleaners. She knew how to brush and clean them. And they'd ask, "Where did you get yours done?" My mother, she used to clean all with gasoline outside. She would, not on the porch, not in the house. She cleaned our clothes, the silk dresses and that, and the cleaning fluid.
Yeah. Extremely flammable and dangerous, Mom.
Well, no, the
outside.
They used outside. They didn't do it in the house. She cleaned out on the back porch.
Yeah. Well, I think I better let you go now, Ma, and then we'll continue on back about your father and you growing up.
Okay.
How's that? Because it is
Okay.
getting dark out and about time.
Oh yeah, I have to start home.
Okay, let me
Oh,
figure
it's
out.
10 after 7. It's getting dark early.
I know, Ma. Let me figure out how to turn this
It
thing
doesn't
on.
get light in the morning
Anytime
till
you want,
7
I'll be able to-
o'clock.
Any,